All right. Welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. So we'll get started where everyone else does. As far as earliest childhood memories, what are we getting into?
Yeah, so I had to do some thinking on this one.
Okay.
And I hope it's okay, but I narrowed it down to two because I
Let's go.
can't remember which one came first.
All right.
So I'll go with the one that I think went first, but I can't remember how old I was. But it was a Christmas morning.
Okay.
I believe I was either 3 or 4 years old. I know I was very young because I remember very vividly the living room layout, white carpets, furniture, all that, which we didn't have for very long after we painted the walls beige and all that. And then, but I also remember like whole family was there, mom, dad, sister, aunt, grandma, grandpa. So the whole family was there. And then the other one would be first day of pre-K, I believe, drop off at this, God, what was it? Pre-K, Stringfellow. Yeah, so Stringfellow, remember that for sure. And I remember
what's Stringfellow?
It's a preschool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it
preschool.
Sounded like a farm that they're just
Oh,
like, hey,
God,
go
no.
here.
I mean, we are in Texas. We got plenty of farms out there, yeah. But no pigs or nothing like that running around. But it was, again, big, bright, yellow building. It was attached to a church as well.
Okay.
Playground off to the right. But I remember, dropping first day of preschool is a big day for a kid.
Yeah.
Something that I don't remember anything after that, but I do remember being in front of the building. Mom's there, kids running around, doors there, teachers up there greeting me, and then that's about as far as that memory goes. So I got narrowed down between those two.
Okay.
I think the Christmas came before, but I could be wrong. So both of those would have been like around 3 to 5 year olds.
Okay.
3, 4 year old.
With Christmas, did you always have a lot of family around you in Texas, or what was going on?
Yeah, definitely. So I got me, my mom, my dad, and then I have a sister. She's 2 years younger than I am. And then I also have an aunt and my cousin, Carter. So he's 4 years younger than I am.
Nice.
And then back then it was grandma, grandpa as well on my mom's side.
Nice.
Mom, dad on my dad's side. So all the grandparents there. Mm-hmm. And I think we even might have had another uncle as well. He lived in New York. He was a little bit more removed. But so, yeah, big families. And I remember throughout childhood, like we always did Christmas together, whether it was at one of our houses, whether we went, we did Colorado a couple times.
Yeah.
So, it was always a big event for our family, for sure. Just getting together and just having everyone be in the same room Christmas morning. We usually try to make a little bit of a trip or event out of it, but yeah, especially growing up, it was big for us.
For our family, we had my dad's side and then my mom's side. For my dad's side, they were like a running family. They were like, we're doing 5Ks.
Oh,
they were marathoners. They qualified for Boston, so like they were always down for a 5K. It was really funny because like they would always go running afterwards, and I'm either like puking or barely walking afterwards. Yeah. Oh, well, no. So there was like a race.
Yeah.
Usually at some point, but like that was that side of the family. Did you guys have any traditions? It sounded like Colorado seems like a good gig.
Yeah, we did Colorado. So my aunt, uncle, they were doctors, so they did pretty well, and they had a spot up in Colorado in Steamboat Springs.
Oh, nice.
And so I think they got that probably when I was like 8, 9 years old, because I remember I was probably in middle school, elementary, whenever we first started going up there, and they had that probably for close to a decade.
Okay.
So we did that, but in terms of traditions, the one that sticks out the most was our family likes to eat a lot of food.
That's great.
So the big one that we always did was a potato casserole dish. So it was potato casserole with bacon bits sprinkled all over for dinner. And then Christmas morning, we would always do as an egg dish. So it took quite a while to prepare, and it was like eggs, and there was bread in there. So it was like kind of spongy type egg dish with ground beef and bacon bits sprinkled in there. But that was still to this day, Christmas morning, we always do the egg dish, and we always do the potato casserole the night before. So family likes carbs, in case you can't tell.
Hey, no. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So were you hanging around like kids most of the day while people were cooking? Like what were you guys getting into?
Yeah, I would say so. So me and my cousin were pretty close. He was 4 years younger than me, and I guess you could say he kind of latched onto me pretty early on. Like I was the cool older cousin or whatever. I played hockey and stuff like that, and so I would always hang out with him and kind of take him under my wing. But I was also an arrogant little kid, so I didn't want him cramping my style and everything.
Yeah.
And then my sister as well. We were definitely we're different in terms of our interests and things like that. I was usually out in the street with all my friends, like a pack of wild hyenas, just raising hell. And she was the more studious one of the family. Yeah. But I mean, we would always be together. However, I will say, like, my aunt, uncle, parents, grandparents, especially my grandparents, great with the kids, especially me. So they took any opportunity they could to really talk to us, spend as much time with us. And, you know, I just remember my grandma, especially on my dad's side, her name's Colette, love her to pieces. She always made her best attempt to try our interests. So whatever I was into, like if I wanted to go, I remember like I had her do jump roping whenever I was into jump rope. I'd have her out playing because I played hockey for 19 years. So street hockey was where I got started. I'd have her out there at, 40, 50 years old playing street hockey with me. That's amazing. Stuff like that. So I do remember those, yeah. She was always right there, and she was always down for anything.
So back then, did you know how rare and cool it was, or was it until later that you were like, wow, that's wild that was happening?
Yeah, definitely until later on. Okay. Definitely until later on. And it was man, coming back to it is wild. Yeah, every Tuesday growing up, most Tuesdays, we had Grammy Day. Okay. So Tuesday, and she lived 45 minutes from us, so right out the road. Yeah, so not too bad. But Tuesdays, that was the day. Grammy would come over, and then she would just take us, what do you want to go? She might go buy us video games. We might go to the park. We might play street hockey, but it was just... She was always there and just wanted to spend time with us. So, yeah, looking back on it now and then, getting to know other people, hearing about their childhoods, their families, things like this. And I definitely realized, like, wow, that's like seeing her every week. And that's just every week. That's not including like the holidays and the things like that. So, yeah, it's definitely, she's something special. It's rare that you come across people as selfless as that, and people who just genuinely care with no expectations of getting anything in return. Like she just wanted to be a part of our lives and wanted to be around us. Yeah. And that's something that, like, I mean, if I ever do have kids, I would love to pass on to them. If I ever am a grandfather myself, things like that. Just so in terms of grandparents, she was pretty kick-ass. Yeah,
sure. That's fantastic. I remember my grandma would have us, I think it was like Wednesdays or some day that my mom was working or whatever it was, and we'd go over there. She was very artsy, so we would either sculpt or we'd be drawing. Really? And then we would have lunch, but then she would have her soap, and like she would be watching like As the World Turned.
Soap opera.
Soap opera. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, and like we couldn't watch that, or well, my mom said we couldn't watch it, so it'd be like half an hour to an hour of us just like trying to sneak in there and like be behind the chair, and it was just
you're around the corner looking around the walls trying to sneak a peek.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that that you were in Texas, but also you played ice hockey.
I did.
So do a lot of people in Texas play ice hockey? I know you're making the connection through street hockey, but how do you first, I guess, get into street hockey?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of not really funny story, but a cool story. So my neighbor in 1999, which I was 96, I was only 3 years old, but that's the year that Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup. Okay. And at time, the captain, Darian Hatcher, lived 5 houses down from us. And he had a son who was probably 4 years older than I am. Okay. And so I remember, 3, 4 years old, I saw Darian Hatcher, and like, my dad told me like he was a big deal. I didn't really recognize it at that age, but I would see him and his son again. So he was like the cool older kid in the neighborhood playing street hockey, stuff like that. And then so I was like with my parents, like, I want to go do that too. Yeah. And then so 4 years old, I remember my first hockey stick was one of the little Fisher-Price hockey sticks, the plastic ones. And then so that I was playing outside with that. And then I graduated to, getting the rollerblades and an actual street stick. Yeah. And I actually started playing roller hockey. Okay. Like, cause street hockey, and then they have organized roller hockey leagues, things like that, which is quite different from ice hockey in the sense that it's no contact. It's 4v4. So it's played much differently. But I mean, I did that and got really good at it and played until I was about 10. And then the moment I realized there's no such thing as professional roller hockey, I was like, all right, time to make the switch over to ice. Yeah. And then that was quite the transition because it's going from roller to ice. It's an entirely different surface. It's now contact. There's more people. And so it took me a little while, but once I got good, man, I really leaned into it, and I had the bug. I kept going. I kept playing.
What was the best transition tool that you had from roller hockey that you think that people didn't have that only played ice?
Oh, that's easy. Great coaches.
Okay.
Great coaches. Yeah, I was very fortunate in that I don't remember how we came into contact with them initially, but the coaches, so like I had to do lessons and things like that in order to make the transition and learn how to skate and everything. And I learned how to skate pretty easily, but then learning how to play hockey on ice took a little while. And so I was very fortunate that my parents were able to find me some good coaches to do private lessons, things like that, which really, I mean, I would not have made it as far as I did if it weren't for them initially teaching me the basics, using their experience to kind of shape and mold me. It's a big part, why I coach myself today is because so much of what I learned today was through the coaches that I had growing up. But starting off, I never would have been able to make that transition.
So where do you think your parents found the wherewithal to put you into like the coaching or to switch you over and stuff like that?
I think my biggest thing for my parents is that they just wanted to see me do something that I was passionate about.
Okay.
Because for instance, so my dad, he is a sound producer, sound mixer. So he's done music initially.
And you said I have nice stuff. You're probably around.
So I know. It's one of those things where I'm not going to lie. I might have judged a little bit, just a little bit, but hey, after all, you're doing good with what you got. But yeah, so we did TV shows, movies, stuff like that. But, so I was lucky in that he had, connections and things like that. And then, he was obviously more of the tech side of things. Like he was a builder. Mm-hmm. He loved, him and his dad used to build stereos from scratch, things like that. Very cool. Hands-on. Yeah, they had their own recording studio. And I was not a builder. Mm-hmm. My parents' nickname for me was Captain Destructo because he was really good at fixing things and I was really good at breaking them. And so for them, like obviously our interests early on weren't super aligned. Like he wanted me to learn like, I remember him trying to get me to help him build speakers and, teaching. He taught me how to use a soldering iron at like 6 years old. And I'm putting together circuits and things like that to make the lights work. And I did it and things like that because, my dad obviously made me do it. But he wanted me to find something that I enjoy doing and that I could really give all of myself to and really just kind of go all in, as well as be around other people that enjoy the same things. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge benefit, was just the friends and coaches and teams that I played for were amazing.
Was that a conversation he had with you? Was that just kind of what you saw? Or
Oh yeah, it's definitely what I saw.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Because it was like they were always down for letting me try new things. Like I did basketball for a little bit, or not basketball, baseball for a little bit when I was younger. And they just wanted me to figure out what I enjoyed, what I wanted doing. And then my dad's big thing, and again, one of his big things, dad's always got tons, all the lessons, all the dad lessons, was figure out something that you want to do and see it through. Give it your all, even whenever things get tough, even whenever, there's trials and tribulations. You want to make sure that you still give it your all and see it through. But he realized that it should be something that you're passionate about. Okay. And that, yes, you're going to go through challenges, but if you're really passionate about something, you'll be able to overcome those. And now this is me paraphrasing and using some of my own experience, but now looking back and having a good relationship with him, I know that's what he was really interested in, was just me finding something that I could pour all of myself into, and through that experience, learn more about myself in the process, hopefully.
Did you have a lot of other things other than hockey that you were kind of interested in, and then it just turned out to be hockey, or was it always hockey since you were 4?
At a young age, hockey, and then, whenever video games came, so like GameCube came out, like I did the video games.
Did you pick GameCube?
God, no. I think, no, it was Game Boy first. Okay. Game Boy was the first one. I remember that very vividly because I was like, I had to have been 6, 7 years old. So I was still pretty young, but I still had my, the teddy bear that I had since I was a kid. I remember called it Bear Bear, and it's, don't take this parenting advice, but my parents bribed me, and they were like, all right, if you get rid of Bear Bear, we'll either give you $100 cash or a Game Boy.
Let's go.
And as a kid, $100 cash, I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. I was like, and then at first I was like, no, I want the Bear Bear. But then I started hearing about all the different games. Pokemon was coming out and getting big, and eventually I was like, all right, take the bear, give me the Game Boy. And then from there, you go into GameCube and Xbox and so on and so on. And I was certainly not a big gamer, but I do remember playing video games. And aside from hockey, which I didn't start to get really serious about it probably till I made the switch over to ice hockey.
Okay.
Just run around the neighborhood with my friends. Like, again, we were a pack of wild hyenas out there raising hell. God, just all over the place, going to everybody's house, swimming, running. We had a creek in the backyard, so I was always back there playing in the mud, looking for snakes and spiders and all that kind of stuff. So I would definitely say I spent a lot of time outdoors whenever I wasn't playing roller hockey.
What would you say the size of your pack was of these kids?
Oh, let's see here. So it fluctuated throughout the years, because we had some people move, some new people come in, but the neighbor right next to me, James, we had across the street, there were 2 boys. And then down the road, we had 2 other boys come in a little bit later on. So it was probably about 4 to 6 of us consistently, with some of them that kind of came and went. But the core group was about 4 or 5 of us.
That's fantastic. Yeah, as I was telling you when you pulled up, like, I don't see anybody out here. There's maybe like 2 or 3 kids out, and that's wild. Like I think we are in an HOA, but there's like a Facebook group of this area. And someone was complaining that, like, oh, these kids are too wild and riding their bikes around, and it's it's hilarious.
I know, like, it's what kids need to do. They need to you need to go out and fall down and break some bone, maybe not break some bones, but gets bumped up and bruised and get into a little bit of trouble, ding dong ditching, stuff like that. Now, yes, does it disturb other people a little bit, but it's also like, I can't think. Name an adult who didn't do some stupid shit whenever they were kids too. It's how you learn. It's how you grow, and it's also do it when you're young and innocent, not whenever you're an adult and now you're just an idiot.
I was trying to be like, there was one time that I was at my buddy's house and we were throwing snowballs behind cars because like, oh, like that's kind of fun, and we nailed this guy. His window was open. And we sprinted in the house. We thought we were dead. Through the front window. Yeah,
oh, wow. Good
clobbered this guy. And we ran upstairs, and the dad was at the door. The guy came and was like screaming at us. But the guy's dad was like, hey, I almost let him come up here and beat your ass. It's like to teach your lesson. And we were just like, we learned our lesson at that point. Yeah. From then on, I think the only thing we did was like the fake rope, and like we do that across
on opposite sides of the street.
Yeah, we thought we were wild. We were
that's
wild.
A classic.
Yeah, I had one of the CrossFit coaches or owners. He used to ding dong ditch, but then I thought this was just in movies. He would light like a bag of poop on fire. Mm-hmm. I'm like, where are these? What are you getting into? Yeah. Did you ever? What was your best prank?
Oh. Best prank. I mean, so we did the ding dong ditching, the fake ropes. We did the TPing and stuff like that as well. I'm trying to think if it ever went past that. I think the worst one was probably I had a year where I was feeling especially vengeful towards my neighbors. I guess you could say they snitched on me for just doing the ding dong ditching and stuff like that. It probably got a little out of hand, but then one Christmas, the neighborhood, everyone's got their Christmas lights up, and I went around and I just started fucking up people's Christmas lights. Like, I remember I pissed on somebody's lights, and like it shorted the circuit for the entire front yard. I wasn't like ripping things down, the reindeers that they put out, like taking the reindeers and stacking them on top of each other. So I didn't do the entire neighborhood, but the next morning people were going around. There were some messages. This was before the Facebook groups and everything.
Good thing there's no Ring cameras.
God, oh, thank goodness. I would have been in juvie for sure. For sure. And then, we did some damage on the Christmas lights. And we had one neighbor that always went all out. Like they did the globes and the inflatables and just at top to bottom is just decorated. And same thing, like deflating all the globes, all the inflatables, rearranging the lights, switching bulbs. So like whenever they have a strand of red lights, we would like put some white ones in there and mix them all up and everything. So that was one that was at the time seemingly innocent. Like, you're just messing with Christmas lights. Yeah. Looking back on it now, like, all right, there's one house maybe, but yeah, I did a number on that neighborhood for sure. I don't think anyone found out it was me, thankfully. My parents covered my ass. I don't even know if my parents ever found out, but They had their suspicions, but deny.
So what is the kicking off point to this? Do you and your buddies have a meeting? Do you go out one night and do this multiple nights, or is this just one night of just
one night?
That you eat all this in one night?
It was because during the day at some point one of the neighbors one of the neighbors came over to my parents' house, and all the parents of all the kids' house, me and all my pack of hyenas, and they're like, hey, like your kids were ding dong ditching and stuff like that, so they snitched on us, so we were looking to get
it was that night.
It was that night. Yeah, we were like, we're going out that night. We're making it happen. And it was convenient too, because like you had the parents that were doing the holiday parties. They were hanging out, so it was easy to sneak away. And it did it 30 minutes. We did our damage. Done.
That's wild.
30 minutes, an hour, something like that.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
How much... how pumped were you guys afterwards? Was just the
are you
adrenaline
kidding me?
flowing?
Just flying, exactly, man. It was unlike anything else.
Felt like you're running down the hotel hallway the whole time.
Yep, knocking on all the doors as you go, for sure. Yeah, just it's the memory of me and my friends whenever it's done, sprinting back to our houses, laughing our asses off, just thinking like we were the coolest kids ever. Like nothing's ever gonna top this. And that was yes, very fun. But we got in trouble
fantastic.
for that. Yeah,
that's great. So we're moving back to we'll skip hockey for a second. Mm-hmm. As far as school went, did you enjoy academics? Did you like anything? Did you still get good grades? No.
Not an academic for sure.
Let's
go. Not an academic.
I'm tired of someone being like, I was an elite athlete and I got A's just because my parents told me to. Like I want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I did okay. I was not getting C's most of the time, but I was certainly not getting A's and B's. I did the bare minimum at most, and I did it to keep my parents off my ass, essentially. That's the only reason I did it.
School was easy for you, just getting A's and B's.
Just getting by was the most part, yes. I just wanted to do well enough to keep my parents on my ass and let me continue to play hockey, because that was the big thing is, again, you don't do good in school, you don't play hockey. I was like, well, I got to play hockey, which means I got to keep up. And it turns out that, elementary, high school, if you actually pay attention a little bit, it's not too difficult. So I was able to skim by with the bare minimum and then still focus on athletics and things like that, playing hockey, screwing around with my friends and stuff like that. But, I was definitely not the most studious person of all.
Did you ever like any of the subjects or any of the teachers that are like, hey, this is actually kind of interesting?
I would say the only one that really stands out in my mind was a high school teacher that I had. It was like a science class or something like that. But it was different in the sense that she kind of put her own spin on things. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but it was, she definitely, there was a lot of, like, I remember she showed us a documentary about, like how meat is murder. She was a vegetarian and all that. So, that whole thing. And
she was 10 years early.
Yes. Yeah. She's a little early on that. But what she did do is that she made it her personality was there. It was very authentic. It was very genuine. You could tell that she wasn't doing anything because the school was like, you have to do it this way.
Right.
I mean, she had a pet snake, so you should always have this. It was like a little, probably 3-4 foot ball python. And I was big snake, like snakes, sharks, dinosaurs growing up. Like those were the big three for me. So she instantly had me there. She had like little cute insects and things like that. So that instantly got me. But just the way that, again, she was kind of like, she taught us the way that the school wanted to, but she still made it her own. That's what really stuck out for me. Her name was Miss Barnes, Angela Barnes.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And like, it's impressive because we usually all have like one or two teachers that we remember. And it's like, what if like all of our teachers could teach like that, but maybe it's just because they have, or how many kids did you have at class? We had like 30 sometimes.
Ours was probably about 20, 30. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was a good sized public school. I mean, there's over
you're in Texas.
We had over 800-900 kids in our graduating class.
Okay.
So it was good sized classes.
Yeah. So as far as you're playing hockey, you're outside all the time. Was nutrition ever anything that your family ever talked about? No.
They knew you got to eat to grow, so they fed me, and they fed me good.
That's great.
No doubt about it. My dad, my parent, they love to cook. Everyone in my family, except for me, loves to cook, which is why I always did the dishes. It's a fair trade. You cook, I clean. I was like, all right, you keep me fed, I'm good with that. But no, that was something that I came into probably a little bit later on in high school whenever I first got into working out for fitness and not just working out to train for hockey. And then I realized, like, all right, if I want to be, if I want to get into fitness, I want to be big, muscular, all that stuff. Like, you can't just work out. You got to get the diet, supplementation, nutrition, all that kind of stuff down. So that's really where I kind of took the interest in it.
What would you say that your parents' relationship with food was? There good, bad food? Was there dessert? And like, I used to ask these questions just purely for myself because my relationship with food is terrible. Yeah. But now I have 2 kids, so I'm trying to figure out. There's generally a theme on how the parents dealt with food and then how the kids deal with food or their relationship with food. So what was your parents' relationship with food?
So I'd say it was a good relationship in the sense that almost everything they fed us was actual food, i.e. not processed, artificial crap, anything like that. It was all store-bought, things like that. But, again, it was steaks and burgers and potatoes and things like that, green beans, broccoli. So, they would mix in some vegetables here and there. I was not a big vegetable kid for sure. Yeah. My mom and sister a little bit more. But, so I was fortunate to say that, like, all the food that we had was natural food, things like that. Like, there might have been some preservatives and stuff like that in there, like you get from anything at the supermarket. But they weren't feeding us like Pringles and chips and Cheetos and crap like that. We had it in the house, but they were able to recognize that, like, if it comes in a package like that and things, you shouldn't have too much of it. So they also made sure that all good things in moderation, sweets and whatnot in moderation. They made sure that, we hit the basic food groups, mostly the protein, carbs, and fat. We got those. We had to work on the greens a little bit later on. I was the kid, we're not leaving the table till you finish your green beans. But so that I'm grateful that they were able to still keep everything natural for the most part, and then they were just getting a whole bunch of artificial crap because God knows, especially today, how much worse that is for you in the long run.
Oh, I'm gonna try to fit this in as many podcasts as possible. But did you know that vegetables are not technically a scientific term? It's just a culinary term. So there's no like, obviously fruits, you have your fruits, but as far as vegetables go, it's just a category of edible, like, leaves, stems, and something else. So I'm not a huge fan of vegetables.
No, I'm still not to this day. I prefer to drink my vegetables, but it's a culinary term.
So it's a culinary term because it's not used in like a scientific as like a fruit is, as far as like you're eating the berry of something. Like, this is something that you're supposed to be eating. But I'm not totally against vegetables. I think that everybody's body reacts to them differently. As far as like spinach and most greens, you have to cook them to actually break the food down. And then usually if like you're having a hard time in the bathroom because you're eating too many salads or whatever the vegetable is, I think the blanket statement of just like eat more vegetables, getting a little nitpicky here, but I'm going to try to push the vegetables aren't real thing for as long as I can.
Yeah. Now I'm
putting it out there.
No, because I've gone back and forth on this because I've also I've gone through pretty much any diet you can think of. I've probably tried at one point or another just to see what works and what doesn't. So I've done the whole carnivore thing, and I never liked vegetables. So whenever I did eat them as an adult, as in I went out and bought them, like, I need to do more vegetables, it was very forced. I didn't like cooking them. I was usually doing the steamed bags of broccoli and stuff like that. But what I do now, I do the athletic greens now because, and again, I'm certainly no nutrition expert or anything like that, but
don't tell the people that.
Yes, I am, absolutely. If anyone tells you otherwise, I am. Like your gut microbiome and things like that. Now, I watched a documentary on Netflix. I'm, again, no expert, unless I am. And just realizing that, like, I feel like I should be getting some of it in. So I did the research and things like that, and athletic greens seems like a good option. And for me, because, I'm on the road 20, 30, 40 weeks a year sometimes. So the ability to easily throw it in my bag, drink it on the go in the morning. I don't have to go out and buy it, things like that. I do enjoy the convenience. In terms of the benefits, I'm not really sure because I don't really feel any different afterwards or anything like that. And obviously it's not something like a magic potion you drink.
Right.
Like, oh gosh, I feel like I can feel it growing inside of me. I feel so healthy now.
Yeah.
But it's still one of those things where it's almost like me saying I'm doing something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I feel like I have to do something. This is the easiest way for me to do it. And just almost maybe even get a little bit of the placebo effect, like saying like, oh, it's got all these nutrients and vitamins in here. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what it's mean, but it's got to be good.
It's got all
Andrew
this stuff.
Huberman talked about it, so it's got to be good. Yeah.
Joe Rogan talks about it all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, as far as like athletic greens goes, what would you need to see to be either like to confirm like, hey, this is working for me, or hey, this isn't working for me? Would it be blood work? Would it be numbers in the gym? How can you tell if a supplement is working?
I would probably say blood work.
Okay.
Yeah. Numbers in the gym. I mean, I'm not a big numbers guy in the gym. I'm more so just like feel good, look good, move well. I'm all right with that. But I am very interested in numbers in terms of data and statistics because, again, like, I have a very difficult time believing anything that I can't justify or prove with some sort of evidence. So I would say the blood work for sure. Yeah. So that would be something I'm interested in doing. I just don't have the time to go out and get blood work done, get the before and after. I'm sure that I could, but that would probably be the only way I could go like, all right, this is or is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a decent amount of companies now that will send you to go get blood work. I think it's like $450 to like $700. Ways to Well. I'm trying to remember there's a couple other brands, but it's phenomenal because you go get your blood work, then they send you your blood work, and then they say, hey, take these supplements.
Yeah.
It's like phenomenal. It's
really?
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But as far as with AG1 goes, specifically, are you looking for like better sleep? Are you looking for just like overall health is improved?
I would say overall just feeling good in terms of like sleep is definitely a big one, but I'm pretty good about that for the most part. I've got my sleep regimen down. Yeah. But yes, just feeling good and ensuring that consistent energy levels would be a big one because again, whenever we're working, they're 10, 12-hour days sometimes. Yeah. We're on our feet, we're talking, we're moving. High energy. Lots of it. Yes, you saw it on Monday. Yeah, we're doing that for 10 to 12 hours a day, and I love every second of it. Yeah. But it's difficult to put on a authentic, engaging experience when I'm like, crap, like I'm tired, I'm run down, like I need some energy. And so that's the big thing is that I want to feel good throughout the day in terms of like consistent energy levels. That way I can put my everything into my work, into my workouts, into studying, whatever it might be. That's the main thing for me is that. So I figured, studies show is that, you get more vegetables. AG1 helps you to, you don't have cravings. You get consistent energy levels. It helps with, digestion, sleep, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, these are all things that help me move throughout the day and make it a productive day. And I'm all about productivity. So I was like, we'll give it a whirl. And I think I've been taking it for probably 3 or 4 months now. Oh, and nice. I know you're supposed to take it every day, but again, traveling all the time, I'm probably closer to
a couple of things going on.
4 or 5 times a week. So, and again, for me, it's like I can go to sleep at night and say like, I had my vegetables today, essentially.
So for you're how old?
27.
And I think this is the best example that you've only been taking it for 3-4 months and you've been athletically inclined for 23 years.
Close to it, yeah.
And like the first thing you did was not go for supplements. Like, it's you're supplementing a good lifestyle. Like when most people start working out, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get the protein shake, I'm gonna get the creatine. Yep. Oh, still love creatine. That was whenever
I first started.
Right. Absolutely, but like you're supplementing your lifestyle now, as opposed to like that wasn't your big focus. Like it's the workouts first, it's the consistency and all that type of stuff. As far as high school goes, you said you were just eating a bunch of stuff before high school. What changed in high school?
I can tell you exactly what changed. I got dumped. Oh, that's the story of every great. Yep. No, not every great, but anyone who wants to get into fitness, get in the gym, they want to look better. A lot of those people, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them, it came from, I got dumped. I feel like shit. I'm gonna either look better to win this person back, or I'm gonna look better to shove it in this person's face and say, like, look at what you're missing out now. And so that was it. Yeah, I mean, 15, 16 years old, heartbreak, got dumped, and it's like, all right, what do other people do to feel better about themselves? I was like, all right, well, they are in really good shape, and they look like they feel better about themselves. And this was right around the time Instagram was coming out as well, too.
Oh, that's tough.
Yes. So it was right around whenever the whole social media influencer thing was. It was a thing. It wasn't a bit, there were not millions of followers out there, but enough for a 16-year-old kid with an iPhone to figure out.
Why is every single guy on here jacked?
Exactly. So I'm like, these guys seem to be having a pretty good life. Girls must like them. So I was like, might as well start doing it myself. And then it turned into more of kind of a therapy for me of like a way to express my emotions, or really it was a way to turn emotional pain into physical pain. And then like that's more tolerable. I played ice hockey for my entire life. Physical pain was not a problem for me. But that was the turning point and that was in addition to playing hockey. So I was working out in the gym, doing more like bodybuilding style workouts, 2-3 hours a day, in addition to practice 5-6 days a week and games. So I was just all over the place.
Yeah, I think the meme is, how do we hide the pain? We lift weights. How do we hide the more pain? We get bigger
muscles. That's the one right there. And it's sarcastic, but it's so many people. I'm sure there are tons of guys out there going, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So for you, when did it turn from a like, hey, I'm angry, frustrated, I want to get big or just look a certain way to get back at them, to a positive for you?
Ooh.
Or are we still working on that?
No, we got there eventually.
Damn it, Charlene.
It got a lot worse before it get better.
Okay.
And now I'll allude to this. I'm happy to go down this rabbit hole with you. But
100%.
Later on, so about the 18 to 23, I was actually an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Okay.
So going from that into college, I went into college. I joined the hockey team.
Well,
there.
let's not breeze past that.
Okay, yeah.
So what was the first time that drinking became a problem?
Oh, it became a problem?
Yeah. Because I think everyone kind of parties. I didn't party.
Oh, for sure.
I just wasn't that cool. But like, when did you start drinking, and then when did it become an issue?
I mean, I drank for the first time 16 years old. It was the typical friends' parents are out of town, snuck into their liquor cabinet, but I was still playing hockey at a pretty high level. I drank a couple times between the years of 16 to 18, but again, I was really focused on hockey, so didn't read much into it. And then whenever I went to college, then it was, again, partying, all that. It's fine. Like, that's what you do. You go to college. And then I would say probably 2021 is whenever it became more of a problem, because I was seeing my friend, we would all go out and have a good time and drink and party and whatnot. And then they would go home and they would, go hang out with their girlfriends, go to sleep, whatever it is. And I would continue to drink. And then it became, next thing you know, I was drinking by myself, things like that. However, I would say the drugs became a problem before the alcohol did.
So what was going through your head at the points, like, before you would partake in whatever activity that you were going to make yourself feel better?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, actually. So this is, I'm happy to talk about this as well, too, because I actually went to rehab for a while as well.
Yeah.
Got out, went through all that. So I would say for me, it was whenever I first discovered drugs and alcohol, and I realized like they can alter your state of mind and kind of warp your sense of reality, I realized that I could use alcohol and drugs to feel better whenever I already felt good. So like if I was out with my friends, we were hanging out and partying, if I drink and do drugs, it's going to make this even more fun.
Okay.
And then I also realized that if I was not feeling good, which happened quite frequently, I could also use it to numb the pain there. And then so basically I was only ever living in like this neutral state where I felt nothing, or this super heightened state where it was just everything was amazing, followed by those really bad lows and dips, which I then had to use drugs and alcohol to get myself back to neutral. And that's whenever it just became an addiction. It became cyclical.
What types of drug did we have? A bunch of different drugs that we're going to, or what was the we're getting at for if we were having a good time or we wanted to improve our mood.
Yeah. So I guess you could say I like to experiment.
Okay.
I like to experiment, but my big ones were downers.
Okay.
Were downers is that I wanted to be able to, whenever I didn't feel good, I was like, I'd rather feel nothing than feel good. So, I mean, I was perpetually stoned for probably about 5 years straight, and I don't have any issues with weed. It was with the way that I used it.
Gotcha.
But the big ones were, I mean, any type of benzo, so Xanax, Percocet, oxycodone, anytime I could get my hands on those.
Yeah.
And then there were also all of the uppers, so cocaine, Adderall, Molly, ecstasy, DMT. I did the psychedelics as well too, and I still have nothing against those.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the big ones. Was a lot of the downers, sleeping pills, painkillers, things like that. As soon as I found those, I was like, ooh, I like these.
So what changed between your self-talk while you were doing those things to after to when you stopped doing them?
Yeah, so it was, I mean, looking in retrospect, it was a pretty simple realization and something that I had to work through whenever I was in rehab, in that people who have an alcohol or drug addiction or alcohol problem, alcohol is not the problem, it's the solution.
Okay.
And that whenever you use external substances like drugs and alcohol, or even like social media, sex, online shopping, I mean, people have addictions that you would never believe these days. And yeah,
poker.
There you go. Gambling is a big one. It's a big one. There's a guy in rehab who flushes life savings down the toilet gambling. But realizing that if I was ever going to get better, which I got to the point in my life where it's like either I get better or I'm dead or in jail or in the hospital.
Okay.
Then
so you hit the bottom.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
COVID hit the bottom for sure. Yeah. And then I was like, alcohol is not the problem, it's the solution. So that means there's something inside me that's broken that I need to remedy before I can ever even hope to live a life without these things, without relying on these substances.
Right.
So that was the realization for me. And once I worked through that, got it all out in the open, and again, we're talking hundreds of hours of therapy and whatnot here, then I was able to come to a place, and it's, what they talked about whenever we were rehab is that it's living life on life's terms, meaning that the ups and downs are part of what makes life unique and special for everybody, and that yes, there are always going to be those moments in life where you feel like it's just the end of the world.
Right.
Everything is working against you. You're never going to get yourself out of this hole. And then you have those moments where like you're on top of the world and this is amazing and I never want it to end. And remembering that you should enjoy them, but you shouldn't dwell on them. Right. Everything comes and goes. It's transient nature is almost what gives it meaning and purpose and makes it special looking back on it. Because if life was just one big joyride, I mean, it's the lows that make the highs a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah. Even rich people can be unhappy.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta have. I mean, one of my sponsors, whenever I got out of rehab, he did very well for himself, multi millionaire and older gentleman, and just like that, same thing. Like he had on the outside, beautiful family, beautiful wife, nice car, house, good paying job. He had all the things that society and social media would lead you to believe that constitute a good life. Right. But on the inside, something was broken. And then he became an alcoholic and then ruined his family, had to rebuild it all. And so, I mean, it can happen to anybody. It's happening to people everywhere right now.
So obviously it's become a much bigger problem, and when America goes to war on anything, it usually doesn't go too well. The war on drugs, war on Iraq, hashtag just got canceled. But what could have you seen as a better solution? Because obviously those drugs are already illegal. It was an illegal activity, but it being illegal did not stop it. So from your view, what could have you seen be a different option to where you're like, hey, I tried this stuff, wasn't really for me, or what would have you need to seen to maybe have a different outcome?
To have a different outcome, I guess it would be learning to express yourself in a healthy way.
Okay.
Finding a way to get what's in here and in here whenever it just seems like it's consuming you, finding a way to get that out, whether it's writing, whether it's talking to someone else, or just having an outlet so that we don't have to compartmentalize things. And I'm fully aware that I'm sure that a lot of the things that happened to me were because, again, getting dumped 15, 16 years old, you just stuff all those things down. You compartmentalize, hey, bigger muscles, I feel better, I look better. And then somewhere down the line, those big muscles can't hold them in anymore. I'm like, damn it, they're good for picking things up, not for holding things in.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that to me, that would have been a much different outcome. But it's also, and again, this is a much larger subject here of just like the difficulty of men in today's society being able to speak out and say like, hey, I need help.
Right.
I don't feel good. I'm miserable. I'm upset. I'm depressed, and worrying about what the world is going to think about you and thinking that it's going to make it even worse. Mm-hmm. And so, and especially growing up as a hockey player, like hockey players are not known for expressing emotions and talking about their feelings. Yeah. They're known for, if you get hit, you get your ass back up and you get into play. Unless something is falling off of your body, keep on going. And so even that mindset, like it benefited me in hockey, but it's something that I took over into the real world and in the rest of my life. And that's obviously not a good mindset to have.
Yeah. Was there ever an opening? Because like you said, like just like talking to people about it, I remember in my life that there was a group of like 4 or 5 guys that we would hang out, and like all of our parents were divorced. So like we kind of talked about that, but it was still like surface level, just talking about how like shitty stuff and laughing about it. But I can't remember ever going like have a deep conversation with like, hey man, like I'm upset, like I'm having a bad day. Like, was there ever an opportunity for you, or what would that even look like?
I mean, the only I would say yes. I had 2 really good friends growing up that I met throughout high school, Jake Anderson, Reed Walker, and they were a different breed in the sense that they were so close to each other that it was weird. And then like I don't remember how I even met them or came in contact with them, but they basically just said like, hey, you're a part of our friend group now. Like I remember they gave me a contract and made me sign it or whatever. So they were the 2 guys that like I was comfortable enough to probably do just about anything with. Yeah. However, we never talked about that kind of stuff. Like we were talking about the same shit that all 16, 17-year-old kids talk about, like going out, partying, girls, sports. We were all athletes as well too, so that was a big part, running around and doing. One of them got me into CrossFit for a little bit. Yep. I said a little bit, just a couple times. Like, easy there. Just a couple times. And but I mean the only other one, like I had one therapist growing up that I really connected with. And then whenever I went to college, obviously I didn't have access to her anymore, and that's where things really went downhill. But she was the only one that I really, really opened up to. Yeah,
I had a bunch of therapists growing up when my parents got divorced. On my mom's side, my grandpa got some stuff done in the mental health area in Illinois and stuff like that. So that was always on the top of their mind. So I never felt like great with a lot of the therapists. One of them sent me to outpatient therapy for suicide thoughts. So I was just like, I feel like this conversation isn't going well, ma'am.
Yeah. That's the one way to put it. Yeah.
So I'm always looking for like different solutions and stuff like that, because obviously cocaine or prescription drugs are going to be around, but is it the parents? Do you need to have a space? Like I have no idea, because my wife, her mental health is wild. How she's just like doesn't care. Like other people will say things won't go very well. Like she's kind of hard on herself, but like mentally she's killing it. I'm like, babe, how are you doing this?
I know, right? Whatever you're drinking, give me some of that.
Yeah. Show me. So as far as like maybe government around you locally, is there like a center that you can think of that like the drugs that they could have at least been clean, or what would have been a way for you to just kind of better help you as a kid?
Yeah, I would say so. One of the biggest things that allowed me to have the realization that I needed to get sober when I was in rehab was listening to stories and seeing people 30, 40 years older than me that had let this go on, and then seeing what happened to them and realizing like, oh shit, that's going to be me if I don't turn my life around. Now, the difficulty is that it's got to be someone you can connect to in some
Right.
way. Because if you just bring some old geezer in here who's been a 30-year alcoholic, like, you're going to end up like me one day. Like, no high school kid is ever going to resonate with that. Yeah. But if there's some sort of a connection, a commonality where like, oh, like you played hockey growing up and you played hockey as well too. Like, okay, I might actually listen to you because you do something that I admire or I respect and someone that I would look up to. And that's, for me, that's what made a big difference. Yeah. And growing up, having someone who went through something similar, and that's where, in terms of government-funded programs, it's almost like you have to pair the right people together.
Gotcha.
You can't just throw somebody in there and
can't tell everyone to do CrossFit.
Exactly. You can't tell kids to just go in there and like, hey, there's this guy, talk to him, pour out your heart, and expect it to work. Some of them might if they find a connection there, but that was the big thing that really allowed me to open up with that one therapist. Is that I truly, genuinely connected with her. Like I felt I looked at her like a friend, and I knew she had my best interest at heart as well. She wasn't there for a paycheck. She wasn't doing it because she had to or because I booked an appointment. I could feel and tell that she genuinely wanted to help me as an individual. Gotcha. And so that's where they're difficult to come across these days, people that genuinely care without expecting anything in return, as well as finding someone who can connect with people in a way that would get them to open up. Because sure, you can open up, but if you don't fully open up, then there's still stuff lingering in there, and that's going to bubble up eventually.
Right. So to somebody listening to this now, if they're in the scenario that you were at any point, what's the time that they need to go talk to somebody? Like, is there a conversation in their head, or how would you get them that they know to go talk to somebody? Yeah,
I mean, it's tough to say, because for me and probably so many other people out there, it ended up resulting in rock bottom, whatever your rock bottom happens to be. But I would just have an honest conversation with yourself and say, am I okay doing these same things 20 years from now?
Okay.
What do I want to get out? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to have a family? Do I want to be successful? Have a high performance job? Things like this. Okay. If these are my goals, then what am I doing to achieve these goals? If I want to aspire to do all of these amazing things, do your actions align with your goals? And if they don't, and you feel like you can't get out of it on your own, you feel like no matter what you do, you just can't break away from these habits.
Yeah.
That's where I would reach out. And also just experiment. Like, if you feel like you drink too much, if you feel like you smoke or use or whatever it is too much, you gamble too much,
right?
Try to go a day without it.
Yeah.
Try to go a week without it. And if that is too big of a struggle to even do, have a conversation.
I mean,
talk to somebody.
The Shaolin Warriors have a lock tonight over in China. So
they have a what?
A lock. The women's basketball, they're going to win.
Yes, they do. You're right. Man,
I used to, that was like a year ago. I was bored at night. I was up.
Naturally.
It's not a problem,
no.
Of course. But I think that's a great way to assess, because most people that I talk to, they either hit rock bottom or life's not that bad. I would say living in America, for 75% of the people, it's not that bad. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm making my rent kind of. I'm kind of late on some payments. But if you look at like people that are overweight or getting overweight, it doesn't happen overnight. It's months, years, things of that nature. So if you take the assessment that you just suggested, like, hey, is this where you want to be? Can you do it on your own? No. Okay, make a change. I think that's important for people to look at. So after you made those changes, was that at the end of your hockey career, or where was that as far as?
Oh, this was in terms of like getting sober and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, this was after my hockey career.
Okay.
Yeah. So I played throughout college. So up until 22-ish. I started coaching when I was 17, which I was really grateful for. I found a good job in college thanks to one of my teammates, Kyle Hughes. And I picked up a coaching gig and that's where I really discovered my passion for coaching.
Okay.
And then I continued coaching throughout college. I did my own private training thing out in Austin for a little while.
Pull you back at here. What was your most memorable hockey game?
Ooh, most memorable hockey game. Ooh, it's between two.
Let's
it's
hear them
between
both.
two. All right, first one, state championship. Team was HC Dallas. I believe I was 16, 17 years old. And I remember game-winning goal in the state finals. And it was recorded on video. And I remember...
We're going to play it right here.
Yep, recorded on video. Yep. And it was just... the whole stadium went off. That was the game-winning goal. That was the first time I'd ever won state championships.
Yeah.
So that was one. And again, it's ingrained in my brain because I've got the video saved on my Facebook page somewhere. My dad does. I'm sure my dad's got a whole camera roll full of them.
Was that before or after the girlfriend broke up with you?
This was after. This was after. And then the last one, and probably the most memorable, although it didn't have the outcome we wanted, was it did have the outcome we wanted. The next game it did. Triple overtime in national championships.
Okay.
And one of the goals we got was just me and one of my teammates, just one of the most out of the blue, literally, like I'm flying down the wall over here. He's out here in front of the net, one defender in the middle right there. And I just turn around like I'm about to post up and regroup with my defense. And I just blindly throw a backhand to him. And he out of nowhere one times it, bar down, and it goes in. And we won. So that was winning any game in triple overtime is just you can't imagine. That's essentially 3 full hockey games. They're all 20-minute periods. And so that one you don't forget very easily. Now the next game we lost in the semifinals, but that winning in triple overtime, there's nothing like it. Yeah. There's nothing like it.
How long did that high last? Or it sounds like it still does.
Oh, it does. Yeah, exactly. I'm getting goosebumps over here. I'm trying reliving and keeping my head on a swivel. Teammates out in the middle. I mean, just that. I mean, it lasted until the next game. Yeah. It lasted until the next game.
It sounds like you're a pretty good hockey player. Now, I know you're probably not going to say exactly how good you were, or kind of be modest about it. How good of a hockey player were you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is a tough question to ask. I'll put it like this, in the sense that you've got a few different leagues that you can play for. You know, there's single A, double A, and triple A. Yeah. Single A being the least skilled. You know, those are kids that just kind of picked it up. Double A is somewhere in the middle, and then triple A being the highest. For most of my career, I played double A, but was consistently one of the top goal scorers on the team, not necessarily top players. I did a couple 2-3 years of AAA and didn't do as well there, but I did make, the RMD team, I can't remember what it's called. Basically, like they did tryouts to figure out who the best hockey players in the state of Texas are, and I made it through to the finals there and won another Team Texas thing. So like the best high school hockey players in Texas, I got on that team. So there were a lot of guys out there that were much better than me, especially in the state of Texas. But overall, I was not a bad player. I'm not ashamed to admit that. Yeah. But there were certainly far more talented players out there than me. Yeah. Far more in the state of Texas. Outside of the state of Texas, not even close. Yeah. Not even close.
So you're saying far talented. How about as far as like effort and skill and strength and stuff like that?
Oh, well, I would say that's where I probably had more people beat. Okay. Yeah, because I was not I was not athletically gifted. Like my parents were not superstar athletes growing up. Like they lived a very, pretty simple childhood. Like my dad played football in college and wherever he went, somewhere, not in college, when he was younger, and then he got into the whole music and sound thing and whatnot. So I was not blessed with super athletic genes, but I was able to work hard. It was something my parents instilled in me. They taught me to work hard more than anything else. Yeah. And so I do remember, right after school, straight to the rink, empty gym, working out on my own, hitting the ice early, getting additional lessons in whenever I could. So there was I did not start off as a very good player. It took me a while to get to the level that I was at, and it took a lot of time, a lot of practice, a lot of hard work, a lot of just gritting through it to get to a point where I was like, okay, I feel confident saying like, I'm one of the better players out here.
So you just loved it and you were so passionate about it. You didn't care about not being the best right now. You're like, hey, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
Yeah. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't tied a bit to the outcome of like, I wanted to be the best player on the team. I wanted to be on the best team, whatever it might be. But, I was happy to know that I was growing. And I was luckily, again, The coaches, many of the coaches that I had were phenomenal. So being able to receive their praise and recognition, many of them I played with for multiple years. So having them and my parents as well and teammates around me say like, hey, look how far you've come. Like, you are not the same player that you used to be. And knowing that I got there through my own hard work with assistance, again, from the coaches and people around me, but I was the one putting in the work.
You said you dialed in your fitness and nutrition. What did that look like as far as, were you finding the information online? Was it the coaches? Where did it start for you?
Definitely not the coaches. The coaches' advice was, hey, I want you guys big and beefy, so just eat. Eat, eat, eat. They didn't care what. They were just like, keep eating. It was probably me, myself, just some books here and there, but it was probably more so online, things like that.
Bodybuilding.com or?
Yes, right there. That's where I first started getting my supplements. I still used to get them from there ages ago. I don't do a ton of supplements anymore, but yeah, that was the one. That's where I got most of it. And I typically just did again, just as much protein as possible, just protein bars, protein shakes, steak, chicken, eggs, all that stuff. I made sure to eat the carbs because I knew that I was still an athlete and you need carbs and things like that. But that was the big switch for me, and then getting into all the supplements and stuff like that, obviously, as all first-time gym goers do.
As far as the lifting went, did you focus on anything specific? Like for us in high school, I played basketball, soccer, and tennis. Now that sounds really good. That was freshman year. Then it just went tennis, soccer, and then tennis.
There you go. So slowly figuring out what we're good and not good at. Yeah.
Well, so I had never not made a team before.
Oh.
But that was also because I didn't try out for a team that I might not make.
So. Got you. Playing it safe. Hey, I did the same thing a couple times. It's a tough blow to a kid's ego. Yeah. It's a tough blow.
I had for sophomore year so we had freshman, sophomore, and then varsity. So junior, seniors played varsity. The coach came to me and he's like, hey, like if you lose some pounds and get a little bit faster, like you'll definitely make the varsity team because like I had the eye for the game. I had a good touch, good passing. Wasn't a great shooter back then.
What year was this? How old were you?
I would be like 17.
Okay.
Or 16, 17. I had a thyroid issue that I was still a fat kid.
Yep.
I like my thyroid wasn't working. I was on HGH.
Really?
I was 5'4", and it took me a while to get growing. Yeah. I am now my height. I am now at like freshman or sophomore year of college. I finally got there.
Yeah. We made it happen.
Yeah, we got there. It took a little bit longer. But yeah, I was just like, Coach, I'm trying. I'm trying to get there.
Especially whenever you want to make that team and it's coming from your coach. It's like, all right, I'll try. But whenever it doesn't work, man, it hurts. It stings.
Yeah. So, but like, I didn't even know that I could be playing indoor tennis during the winter. Like, I did not do any of the extra stuff. So how did you know to get started on like the individual training for yourself, lifting wise?
I mean, the one thing I knew is that I was able to figure out enough to know that the training I did for hockey was strength training. It was built to make me a better player. So it was a lot of, sprints and sled pushes, squats, things like that. A lot of lower body. So I've been blessed with, nice big juicy quads playing hockey for 19 years. But I realized, I found out somewhere online from somebody that if your goal is to put on muscle, if it's more hypertrophy, then you want to be aiming for, 8 to 12 reps. You want to be making sure, your eccentric movement, we're slowing down, things like that. I learned that a little bit later on, but that was probably all mostly online and realizing that if I wanted these other muscles to grow, just going in and going until I was exhausted wasn't enough. You need to exhaust and fatigue the muscle, not just exhaust and fatigue your entire body.
Okay.
So I would do that in the gym, more bodybuilding type workouts that I would find online, social media, stuff like that, in addition to all the strength training and conditioning that I was doing for hockey as well.
What would you say your consistency looked like? Was it 4 days a week lifting, 5, 6, 7? What are we...
Oh, I mean, it was definitely training 7 days a week.
Okay.
Or doing something 7 days a week. But I was probably in the gym 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, I had a routine where I didn't go to school till like 12, so I had like off-campus PE.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So, you guys didn't have that out here? Like if you play enough of an extracurricular activity, it counts towards your PE credit, so you don't have to take it at all.
There was only one girl in middle school that did gymnastics enough to get away. I would always see her because I was going to something and she'd be going to gymnastics. I was like, nice.
Yeah.
The only thing we had to get out early was we did early bird gym. So I think our school started at maybe like 7:00, but we would have gym class at like 6:15, but then we would get out after our third period, and we had block scheduling, so we'd only have 4 classes. But I'd get that last class done. I'd be leaving school at like 11:21.
Yeah,
it was
nice,
phenomenal.
Sick. Yeah, it was before lunch.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yep. Yeah,
it was great.
And then the routine was. And I got in. I skipped first and second period, so I got in third period around 11 o'clock. But I would drop my sister off at school at 7, 8 a.m. with everybody else. Go straight to the gym, work out for 2-3 hours, go home, shower, go to school, get out of school, head to the rink, train, practice, on ice, off ice, stuff like that. And that was typically I would work out probably about 5 days a week because I had games on the weekend, so I wouldn't work out then unless it was a really bad game, in which case I would go in the gym to blow off some steam. And then, practice about 3-4 nights a week, and then typically 2 to 3 games a weekend.
How well did you sleep?
Oh, sleep. Oh, I slept. I could sleep anywhere. You tell my parents right now to find pictures of me sleeping. They got whole photo albums of me. I could fall asleep on the drop of a hat. I fell asleep white water rafting in Colorado with my family.
That's incredible.
Sleep was not my issue. What became my issue was my testosterone plummeted because I wasn't giving my body enough time to recover.
Gotcha.
So they started to wonder, like, maybe he's sleeping too much.
Okay.
Which, typically for a teenager, like, there's no such thing.
Right.
But it was like there were some other things going on as well. And so I went in and got some blood work done. And it turns out that, from all of the overtraining and never giving my body time to recover, my testosterone had just plummeted. So I had to supplement testosterone for a little bit to get back up there.
Nice.
Yeah. And then it was, trust me, they didn't give me the good stuff. I wish. I asked for it. They were like, no. Just a dab will do you. We just need to you're like right here. We need to get you back up here. We're not going through the roof or anything.
Yeah.
But that was the routine. So it was fun at the time because I could really see how far I could push and challenge myself. Yeah. But there's definitely a breaking point there and some bad habits that I built along the way.
So as far as was it TRT?
I don't remember.
HGH? So for me, it was human growth hormone and the dosage. They're like, hey, if any bodybuilder comes and asks you for it, like, you don't have enough dosage in that bottle to give them what they'd be interested in.
Really?
Yeah. So it like they would have had to have it so I would mix it myself, which was hilarious going through airports. I would literally have syringes. I'd have distilled water and then whatever the HGH in a powder form. I had this like little lunchbox that I'd like travel with, and there's absolutely. But I think the dosage that I was on was so minimal that nobody would have been super interested. But after I was done with that and reached my height, they're like, hey, we'll test your numbers for TRT and something like that. And they test it. They're like, you're fine. Like you don't need it. I'm like, are you sure? Maybe a little bit.
Just slide it under the table. It's okay. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah. But for you felt that you weren't sleeping as much. You felt like your body was good. Like, what was the change that you saw after you got supplemented?
Oh, I don't know if I saw any change.
Oh, really?
I just went back to doing the same shit I was doing. I just was supplementing the pills that they gave them to my parents, and my parents was like, here, take this in the morning. So I have no idea whether or not it worked. I know that at some point I went back to get my blood work redone, and they're like, all right, you're good to go. Yeah. But in terms of feeling the difference, I was so just go. I was not paying attention to how much I was or wasn't sleeping. I was so focused on workout, train, shove it in this girl's face, get in really good shape, and that was it. There's no other focus.
There we go. So we've hit hockey, we've hit COVID, hitting rock bottom. Where did we go after that?
After COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah, so after COVID, so again, COVID got really bad. That's whenever I ended up checking myself into rehab, got out, stayed in a sober living home for 3 months, and that's where my life took a big turn in a positive direction. Was 3 weeks after I got out of rehab, I came across Kid Strong, which is where I work now, and so this is where we met on Monday, and so this was back in July of 2020.
And it's Wednesday.
And it is Wednesday. Holy smokes, it is, yep. And I came across Kid Strong July 2020, and it was a much different company back then. But getting out of rehab, staying in a sober living home, every single day I woke up whenever I got out of rehab, like the only thing I could think about in the morning was, how am I going to stay sober today? Because whenever you're in rehab, it's fine, it's safe, you can't relapse, there's people around you.
Right.
And then in sober living, it's a controlled environment, but I could have walked 5 minutes down the road and gotten a bottle of booze and easily relapsed. So every day was just, how am I going to stay sober? I remember sitting in AA meetings just salivating at the thought of tequila, because that was my drink of choice. Okay. And then I was like, all right, I need to get a job. Not only did I have tens of thousands of dollars of court fees and stuff like that, because I had issues with drinking and driving, stuff like that. That's all behind me and taken care of now. But I was like, I've got to do something. I knew that I liked working with kids, and I knew that I loved coaching, and I had a passion for fitness still. Mm-hmm. So I started looking on Indeed, came across Kid Strong, and from the moment I walked in, I was like, this place is special. This place is different. Yeah. The passion with which the people around me spoke. So I was fortunate enough to get in early enough to where like I was onboarded by our founders, Matt and Megan Sharp, trained by some of the best people we have today, Patrick Morgan, working with the guy sitting in your living room right now, probably playing Nintendo Switch or Pokemon or something.
Yes.
Randy, working with him, and just so the people were amazing, but the commitment to the mission, the purpose, the drive was just astounding. And this was at a time in my life when I had no purpose, and all I knew was that I wanted to give back, because I was only able to get sober because people helped me get through that. And I also saw an opportunity to grow with the company that was clearly going big places. Like I knew that they were going to explode. They knew it. So I was like, here's an opportunity to get on the ground floor, a chance to work my way up, to prove myself, to learn some new skills, to work with some amazing people along the way. And then that was 4 years ago. And since then, it's just been a whirlwind.
COVID was 4 years ago.
I know. It's 2024, man. You're gonna blink. You're gonna wake up tomorrow. It's gonna be 2025. Just wait. And ever since then, it's just been Kid Strong and obviously other things as well. But it's been a huge blessing for me to be. It gave me purpose at a time in my life where I didn't know what I was gonna do with myself, if I could do anything at all anymore, if I would be able to do anything with the past that I had, people knowing that I was a alcoholic, an addict, and things like that, and the stigma associated with that. And then I fell in love with all of it. And it gave me an opportunity to rediscover myself, learn more about myself, and make some really cool memories and help a lot of people along the way, which I'm very fortunate to still be doing. Yeah. Hence why we're sitting here having this conversation. I mean, if I would have never gone through all those things, gone to rehab, taken that interview, taken that job, then I wouldn't be able to travel the continent like I do now, meet people like you, help kids, help parents, help coaches. And so that's been it, for the last 4 years.
So what would you say drew you in the most as far as for the kids? Like, how did you know, like, oh, this is different, like this, I can see this working with kids?
It was the people.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. The passion that they had for the mission, and also the fact that we're working with kids, but it wasn't kiddie. Like I grew up playing like hockey, where I grew up around strong coaches, strong male role models, things like that. And so many kids programs out there are very much like, all right, we're going to get the parachutes and we're going to dance and sing Ring Around the Rosies and do sock puppets and barf all day long. And I saw these guys were like, they're having kids do push-ups. We're working on hand-eye coordination, bilateral movement. We're practicing teamwork. We're developing leadership skills. Yeah. The centers were amazing. We had all this cool custom equipment, like the little crawlers, which are essentially a child's version of a sled or a prowler. These climbers, this crazy equipment, and just all of this innovation that they were continuing to do. and seeing the passion with which they spoke about the mission. And I saw that, and still to this day, I mean, it's rare to come across anybody in anything that's that passionate about anything that they do.
Right.
And this was at a time in my life, again, where like I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I like these people. I like what they're doing. I want to do this too. And I drank the Kool-Aid for sure.
So similar to that teacher, they had that passion. They loved it. They enjoyed what they were doing.
Yeah, that's a great connection. Yeah, for sure. And again, it was just, I saw an opportunity to grow as well. It was like, I knew that they were going to continue to grow, open more centers. It was going to be a hit one day like it is and will continue to be. And I was like, I can put in the time and effort now and really build a future for myself at a time when I didn't know if I was going to have any kind of a future.
Yeah.
It was a promising outlook for me. So I latched on and I went all in.
So when did you start going to openings and trainings? When did you start becoming?
So I was just a coach for the first year and a half that I was there. I coached with, again, the guys sitting out in your living room right now. I coached with all the coaches in the DFW area. We only had about 6-7 centers at the time. And so
Dallas-Fort Worth?
Yeah, Dallas-Fort Worth.
Okay.
Dallas-Fort Worth. And the way that it's structured is that all the locations in Dallas-Fort Worth are owned by corporate.
Okay.
Every location outside of that is a franchise.
Yeah.
So people come in, they buy licenses, they open them up. And I just coached for a year and a half. I was able to run a couple of the centers there in Dallas-Fort Worth. And then whenever we started opening up more centers, we had like one trainer. It was Morgan, who is still, she's my manager to this day, one of the best people that I know, hardest workers that I know. And they were like, we're going to need more trainers.
Yeah.
And they asked me like,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Like, we need more people. Like, you're a good coach. Like, I see that you have potential. Our founder, Megan Sharp. And she was like, would you think about trying the training thing? And so I did that on a trial basis, part-time, where I was still running one of the DFW centers. And I started training part-time, and then eventually part-time became full-time. I made the jump up to headquarters, so I didn't work in DFW locations. I was now working for headquarters. And that was October 2020. And I've been doing that full-time. I've held a few different titles and things like that, but for the most part, the job has still been training and developing coaches. I do a lot more leadership development, working with centers, center leadership, area developers, our other trainers, things like that. But the coaching coaches has always been the main part of it.
How do you maintain the quality with the coaches? So coming from the CrossFit background, I coached for a couple years, went through a lot of certifications and stuff like that. And it seemed as the day and a half, you could tell who was going to be a good coach. And I worked for a supplement company while I was coaching. So I would go, I've probably been to 50 to 75 CrossFit gyms.
Really?
And like, you can see who's interested in being a really good coach. But the thing about CrossFit is like, you really have to want to be a coach because you're not going to make a bunch of money.
Yeah. No one gets into coaching for the money. That's for sure.
So like that was, you could tell that there was always passion. But sometimes there was one that was like, hey, maybe they could use some more help from, if there was the headquarters, those people coming around more. Like, how do you make sure that doesn't happen?
Like, make sure the standards don't drop in the quality of coaching.
Yeah.
I would, what it comes down to is that you have to find a way to connect their individual why, not their why for wanting to work there, like their why for living, for being put on this earth. For instance, my why that I figured out was that I want to leave this world a little bit better place than I found it.
Yeah.
So my vision, my goals, aspirations for my life align with what Kid Strong's doing. Helping kids win at life, I'd call that making the world a better place.
Absolutely.
And so it's figuring out the intrinsic motivations for them and seeing, not forcing, but trying to find a way to connect that to the company, to the teams, to the centers, to whatever their individual why or mission is. And that if their vision for their life and what they want to do and their why aligns with the teams, the company's why, there's a good chance that you're going to get far more out of them, or they're going to work harder, they're going to learn more, they're going to want to continue to challenge and rise up the ranks than somebody who just like, I was just looking for a job and I thought it looked cool. And that's fine. You know, everybody's going to have those every now and then, but in order to truly make an impact, do something that people don't forget for the rest of their lives, it requires a level of dedication and commitment that can only come from that intrinsic motivation, which it can't be money, it can't be anything external, it has to come from within. So figuring out what drives them first and then finding a way to tie that back into what we're doing at their work, at the job, whatever it is going to allow them to care in a way that nobody else would. And if they care, the quality goes up. If quality goes down whenever people stop caring. It's as simple as that. They don't care. You're not going to try your hardest. You get complacent, and complacency is always a precursor for mediocrity.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also, since you're dealing with kids and you guys have all your programming done, a tough thing with CrossFit is the owner is going to do the programming. Yeah. So all the times owners have a specific way they like to program. Saying like, oh, we're going to do a strength cycle this way, and then in 3 months we're going to be doing pause squats, and we're going to pause everything, and then we're going to try EMOMs on this and that, and then you go and look at your strength a year later, it's like, oh, I gained maybe 10 pounds or I lost this. So I think it's really tough to program well for CrossFit, which is sometimes part of the allure. How do you guys stay away from that problem?
Oh, I mean, we have a programming team. Okay. Some of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with: Luke Summers, Johnny, Ramon, my friend out there. He helps out with them as well. We have a board of advisors. We partner with we get a lot of research from Ivy League universities, Hale, Princeton, things like that. So everything we do is always based on the latest cutting edge child development research and knowledge. Yeah. It's paired with the best practice, and the programming team designs everything for us. Yeah. And then what they do is they make it fun, essentially, and then they disseminate that down to the coaches. And so the TV that we were using to run class on Monday, that's all the programming right up there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we provide them with training videos and resources, how-tos, things like that, so that way they can study and prepare in advance. But most of it's going to be right up there on the KSTV for them, and there's opportunities to continue to develop their child development knowledge outside of what they see in center via online continuing education. Yeah. But this ensures that, it's the one big thing that we wanted to make sure starting off was consistency. Right. Because our founders, Matt and Megan, they owned a CrossFit gym. They were big into that. A lot of the guys at headquarters now, and even girls as well, were big into CrossFit. Yeah. A lot of OTF as well. We had a lot of people come from that world. So we were able to learn from those spaces and see what they did well and what didn't work well. Yeah. And the one thing we knew is that you should be able to go into a class at our location in Calgary, up in Edmonton, or up in Canada, and then come back down to Texas and watch a class, and it's the same programming, the same class, the same equipment, the same layout of the center. So there's going to be different manipulations of the floor and everything, but other than that, it's the same thing. So that way, no matter where you go, you're getting the same experience aside from the coaches. Because the coaches are the one thing, they're coaching the same thing, but everyone always has their own spin, their own personality, which we want them to have as well. Yeah. But they're coaching the same thing, essentially. So that consistency was huge for us because we recognize that if we just let people start making up programming along the way, then it's like, well, if anybody can just make anything up, why don't they go start their own? What's stopping them from starting their own company? Yeah. So, and we wanted to make sure that, again, these parents were getting the best knowledge, the best science-based curriculum training they could possibly get, because our company was built by parents. They started this program because there was nothing out there that helped their daughter grow up to be a strong, confident, happy, healthy young girl. Not just strong, but they wanted her to be high character, confident. They wanted her to be smart. And so that's why they started Kids Strong. But if people are just making things up a lot as they go, then we lose the integrity of what we're doing here and how we're trying to go about it. We figured out how to do things over years of experience working with incredibly intelligent people. And so we want to make sure that each center does their part to hold the line, to maintain the standard, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Go to Kids Strong. Is it Kids Strong?
Kids Strong. Go to Kids Strong. find a Kid Strong near you. That's absolutely right. Kidstrong.com. They're everywhere. The coaches are amazing. Tell them I sent you.
So as far as like ages and stuff go, how does the programming change for the kids?
Yeah, so we break it down into essentially 3 different age groups. There's Kid Strong Prep, which is our 0 to 4-year-olds.
Okay.
Kid Strong, which is 4 to 7. And then we have our Kid Strong X, which is our 7 to 11-year-olds. And within each of those age groups, there are different classes. So there's a 2 to 3-year-old and a 3 to 4 and a walking to 2-year-old. But those 3 buckets, each of those are coached and done in very particular ways. For instance, for our younger kids, so for instance, for Adeline, we are not expecting her to run before she can walk. So we're focused on mastering the basics. We're introducing structure to them in a way that is fun, but still gives them a little bit of flexibility, opportunities to explore.
Yeah.
And we do it with the parents on the floor, not to make our lives easier as coaches, but because kids at that age learn fastest or learn most effectively when their parents are modeling behaviors. I mean, you see kids are always copying things that their parents do. Take that same principle and apply it to positive things like movement, running, jogging, eating healthy, practicing shapes, things like this, making friends, being a good teammate. If they see their parents doing all these things, they want to do them too. And so the programming is basically built around those expectations, and then it changes. So it goes in 3-week programming cycles. So there's always something new and fresh coming up. Kids shouldn't be getting bored of what's going on. The coaches are always leveling up their coaching skills to ensure that they can deliver a authentic but not repetitive experience. And then, excuse me. And then, and then after that, it's up to the coaches to really bring the programming to life.
Yeah. I haven't seen a good argument for something for another sport or fitness for other than gymnastics, but you guys are putting up a good fight over here.
Oh, hands down! Like I'm calling this right now. Like Kid Strong will be the best company, the leader, the foremost company in child development in the world. We got plans to go overseas. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen.
Wow,
it's gonna happen for sure. And what we've just realized, and this is why we've been so successful, is because people need it. Parents need it. Kids need it. There's lots of places out here that do one of these things, but in terms of developing the whole child, not a lot of places do that.
This makes me so happy because it really frustrates me when parents bring their kids to like karate or like a martial arts studio that teach them a skill that's not applicable to life. Like I'll go watch my cousin do tung sudo, whatever it is. No hate to any of these kids.
Tung sudo. What was that?
Tung sudo, I think.
Is that sounds like a Star Wars name.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Star Wars
There's
character.
a lot of names out here. So he's like, hey, watch this move. And he's like, you won't be able to move me. And then like I just like move him. He's like, oh no, you gotta move me this way. I'm like, okay. Like you're learning structure, but just for structure's sake, not because you're learning something that's applicable. So I think that's fantastic that you have, like you said, for the whole child. That's very helpful to have there.
Yeah, well, it's also, we realize that, you don't just want kids that are physically strong, because then you end up with the stereotype, the athletic jerk, the kid that's, the quarterback in school, but they're an asshole to everybody else. Or you end up with the kid, the nerdy kid who's incredibly intelligent, but they lack confidence. They lack physical literacy. And that we don't need more of those kids. We need more well-rounded kids that are not only physically literate, because as I'm sure you know, and what you want to pass on to your kids as well, is that moving, being healthy, having an interest in exercise, not bodybuilding and working out until your arms fall off, but just having a healthy relationship with fitness is huge to living a happy, healthy life. You move well, you feel better. That's everybody realizes that by now. But they also need to be confident. And we are going through a confidence epidemic in society today. Like, I'm sure both of us, we've struggled with confidence before. Everybody does. And the tricky thing is that the older you get, it's the rule of compound interest. It just continues to compound. The older you get, it becomes harder and harder to break old bad habits that have been ingrained in us since we were kids. So if we teach them at a young age to be confident, to learn that it's okay not to get what you want, to practice delayed instead of instant gratification, to learn that it's not about winning or losing. It's about the effort. It's about the giving it your all. It's about encouraging others around you, not just about yourself. That's a world that I don't know how long I'm going to be on this world for, but I believe that that's going to be a truly better world. And that's why I want there to be a Kid Strong on every corner. I want coaches everywhere. I want every kid to go to Kid Strong because it's not what we need right now. It's what the world needs 30, 40, 50 years from now. Because this generation, your kids are going to face some of the toughest problems we've ever had to face. And if they lack the confidence, the character, the humility, the strength to do these things, it's going to make it even harder for them. And I think what so many coaches, myself included, the reason why we get into coaching is that I made a lot of mistakes throughout my life, and along the way, I realized that I don't want other people to make those same mistakes. Learn from my mistakes. Please be happier, be healthier. And so that's why we try to pass it forward to future generations. And that's why it's one of the most rewarding things in the universe. Yes, it doesn't always pay the best, especially if you're a CrossFit hockey coach in Texas. Not paying the bills for sure. But again, it's incredibly rewarding, and you get to go home, lay your head on your pillow at night, and know that you're doing something that matters and that one day is going to matter to somebody else.
Love it. All right, let's finish it with the last two questions. What's your definition of health? Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what is health to you?
Health to me, man, that's a good one. I feel like I should have studied before I came in here. Health to me, I would say, is just being okay with how you feel no matter what's going on outside of you. And so it's more of a holistic kind of mental approach to health, and realizing that how you feel physically, so if you're physically fit, if you can go up the stairs without getting out of breath, things like that, you can move well, it allows you to feel better and allows you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So I would say, going back to it, health is whenever you can live the life that you want to live and feel good doing it.
Love it.
I think that, that's a much more succinct way of putting it.
And then what's something from your life that you think that people listening to the podcast would be able to take away as a positive?
Take away as a positive. Well, definitely learn from my mistakes. Don't do drugs or drink unless you want to have the best time ever. No, I'm kidding. Don't ignore that last part. No, I would say in terms of learning from my mistakes, if I could pass something on, it would be this. I mean, I'm going back to a lesson that I learned whenever I was going through rehab, is that learn to live life on life's terms. That things are not always going to go your way. You're not always going to get the promotion. You're not always going to get the girl. You're not always going to get whatever it might be. But every single harsh time and every single good time I look back on now, I realize that time heals all. It will pass. Better times will come. Bad times will come around too. But that's just part of it, and that you need to learn to accept those things before you can truly be happy with what you have now. Because if you're always looking behind you and you're always looking at what might be coming up next, that you missed so much of it along the way, and you would be surprised how much is out there right now, right in front of your face. You just have to recognize that you don't need any of these other things to feel good, to be healthy, to be happy. Just live life on life's terms and help other people. Help other people.
Boom. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Absolutely.